years later, 53 years and counting, I've never ever skipped a deadline because I think deadlines are sacred. So if someone entrusts you with a column and a deadline, you don't make excuses saying, I'm having a fight with my husband or I'm having a bad hair day. You just sit down there and you go ahead and you do what you're committed to doing.
Thank you for sharing that. And over to you, Manju.
Yes. So
By the way, you still look like a diva.
So at 17, you were in the cover of Femina, if I'm not wrong.
That's
17
right. Yeah.
years
17,
old.
yes.
And also the fact that you were also into art and painting, and you had a tiff with your father. Your father wasn't keen for you to take up art because your art was very expressive. So tell us about that.
You've done your research very well, I must say. Yes, first of all, they disapproved of my being a cover girl. I did multiple covers for Femina and Eve's Weekly and all the magazines, but that very first cover upset them no end because I was shot by the then Jitendra Arya, who was the head photographer for the entire Times of India group. And I was wearing a paper shirt, not just a shirt, but I was wearing, obviously, trousers below that, but it was made out of Chimanlal handmade paper.
Okay.
And my parents thought it was ridiculous that their daughter could be A, on the cover of a magazine, B, wearing a shirt made out of handmade paper. And then came the worst blow for my parents, because in those days, Femina carried a little blurb asking the cover person what the person's ambitions were.
Okay.
And most of the ladies of my generation, and of course the men, that was taken for granted, but women in particular, just coming into our own, it was the early, whatever the period was, they would say, I want to become an engineer, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a pilot, I want to become a lawyer, or not even a chartered accountant. Yeah, these were the professions. That's it. And I said, well, I want to get married and have many children. And my father, when he read that, that upset him even more than the paper shirt. He said, what kind of an ambition is that? Because my siblings were all high achievers, gold medalists, ophthalmic surgeon, lawyer. My brother was one of the first graduates from IIT Kharagpur. And I was the youngest. And he said, do you even call that an ambition? I mean, any illiterate person can marry and have children. And I stuck to what I said, even with him. I said, no, I mean, everything else will be icing on the cake. But this is what I want. And I can say now with, six children and 7 grandchildren, that my ambition was certainly met. I don't know about his.